All right, here we go. Today we have former LA police officer Ruben Palomares, who went to prison for being the mastermind of a violent band of rogue officers who committed a string of armed robberies across Southern California. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Hey, thank you for having me here.
Well, very interesting story. I want to start in the very beginning.
Okay.
You were actually born in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't really know your real father.
No. Never got to know him.
Okay. And why was that?
When my parents came to California, I was about a year old or less. Mm-hmm. And my mom was running from a man that had kidnapped her and held her hostage in Mexico for 2 years and had raped her. My older brother was born out of that rape.
Your mom was held hostage and raped for 2 years?
For 2 years, yeah.
How old was she?
She had to be like 17, 18.
Damn.
She was young, yeah.
Wow.
The guy kidnapped her. So he had a family, though, and he kept her there with his wife and kids, and he was abusing her. I didn't find this out till I was 17 years old, though.
Okay.
But my mom told me the whole story that they fled out here because the guy was still looking for her to kill her and take my brother away from her.
Oh, they had 2 kids together.
One, my older brother, and the guy that rescued her was my real dad.
Oh.
He found out that she was there being held against her will, kidnapped, abused and everything. And he was a rancher from that same area in Mexico. And he said, I know what's going on with you and I can help you. And she said, well, if you really mean that you want to help me, I do want to leave this, but I want to escape. And then she said that this guy's going to go hunting for a few weeks. During the time he leaves, I can meet you at the river and you can pick me up and take me and help me. So that's what happened. My mom ended up grabbing my older brother, and going down the river, and he ended up picking her up and taking her to a ranch to keep her there while they try to help her find her family, which was my grandfather, my grandmother, and her siblings, who had already moved from Mexico to TJ, but she didn't know. While she was there with my real dad, he ended up staying with her for a few months. And of course, my mom said that nothing's for free. The guy, my real dad, ended up, forcing himself on her too, and he ended up getting her pregnant. She didn't know she was pregnant yet. After 3 months being there, she did say, hey, you were supposed to help me take me to find my family. So he did. He leaves her at a bus stop with my brother in her arms, and she's already 3 months pregnant with me in her womb. And then my stepdad's the one that meets her there, and he's waiting for the bus, waiting for his girlfriend, and he ends up feeling sorry for her and helps her out. And then from there, he starts helping her try to find her family, which he ends up staying with her and does take her. I'm born in Mexico at that time, and while that happens, it takes a time for my mom to find out that her family's in TJ. It's different. It's in the 60s, I was born in 69. By the time they go to TJ, I'm close to a year old. And my mom is still running from this guy. So they come to they end up leaving and landing in LA, which is South Central. My uncles already had living there, and I have uncles and aunts are living there. So they ended up moving in with them and establishing themselves there for a while.
Okay, so she moved the family across the border illegally?
Back in the days, it was easier to cross over. Who knows?
Right.
I never asked because it was back in the day. People were crossing back and forth like nothing.
Sure.
And all they had to say is citizen, and they'll let you walk right by without even paperwork.
Okay, so now you're in this family with a stepdad.
Stepdad.
And there ends up being 10 kids at one point?
At one point, 10 siblings, yes. I'm the second oldest.
Okay, so she had, 8 kids with
8
this
kids
guy?
with my dad, yeah, my stepdad.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So 10 kids, 2-parent household, but your stepfather was always getting drunk and losing his job.
He was an alcoholic, and he was abusive, and he was pretty much drunk most of the time. And when he did have jobs, of course, he was always drunk, or he'd end up losing a job. Or one day, I know he got an injury from work, so he wasn't working because of the injury, and he was still drinking a lot.
Okay, so you're growing up in this environment in South Central Los Angeles. What was the gang situation during that time?
There was already a lot of gangs. There was Florencia 13, Florence 13. From a lot of Crip blood gangs were already forming in that time, but we moved from there to Huntington Park. So pretty much from like 6 years old, 7, I started pretty much getting familiar with the area of Huntington Park, which a lot of Florencia was there. And 18th Street was close by, so they were like rivals. And they didn't have too many rivals, but there was 18th Street and Florence back then were the newer, bigger gangs out there who were at war with each other during the time I was being raised in that area.
Well, at 12 years old, your uncle ends up getting killed.
Yes.
During a drug deal, I guess?
I didn't know until I found out a little later. I found out he was meeting some guys at a bar. From what I heard, the story is he had cousins and they told me, hey, some guy wants to buy some cocaine off you. We're gonna set up a deal at the bar in South Central, and my uncle took the 2 kilos of cocaine, met him at the bar. The 2 guys that were with him, supposedly his cousins, took off to the bathroom. When he was waiting for them, the one guy pulled up and shot him, took his coke and left him, and took off, left him to bleed out right there and die. Yeah.
Okay, what type of effect did that have on you?
A major effect because I was super close to that uncle.
Yeah.
To me, because my stepdad was abusive, I didn't have a relationship with my stepdad. I didn't know he was my stepdad until I was 17, but I also experienced a lot of abuse and rejection from him. So I never knew what love was. I knew what hate was. I knew what violence. So with him, I never had that connection. I never had that bond. So my uncle was someone that I connected with, and I felt like he was giving me some type of love that I never had from nobody. And then when he gets killed, of course, that affected me.
Well, with all those gangs around, were you being recruited at all?
No, but they were around recruiting people, but I just never liked gangs. And I had uncles that were already involved in gangs. Mm-hmm. And some of my cousins were moving into the gang life already. 41st Street, Colonial Watts, they were already joining gangs. I just couldn't stand gangs. I didn't believe in being told what to do. I didn't believe in that structure of being controlled. I just believed that for whatever reason, as a little kid, I always believed in being my own man, being my own person. And gangs to me made me think and believe that if you're there, you need that help from these other guys to fight your own battles, or you need that to feel strong and special or good by going and following all these big dummies trying to tell what to do. And I didn't want to fall for that. I wasn't for that.
Well, as a teenager, you started boxing a lot.
I started boxing a lot, yes.
Right. And at 16, you entered Golden Gloves.
At 15 and 16, I fought the Golden Glove, yes.
Yep. And you were trying to make it into the 88 Olympics, but you weren't actually a citizen at that point.
I was a permanent resident, and I had already been representing the United States, boxing in the United States team. We ended up fighting the Mexican Olympic team, and I fought representing the United States at 16. They let me, but I was a permanent resident. I already went through my process. I didn't know that I had to get my citizenship. So at 87, they kicked me out of the team and told me I wasn't a citizen, so I needed to get my citizenship, which pissed me off because I had already represented the United States. So yeah, I didn't get to go to the 88 Olympics. So I did get my citizenship. Right after that, I got my paperwork done. I got my citizenship. And next thing you know, I was trying to get ready for the 92 Olympics.
Right. You actually sparred with like Oscar De La Hoya,
Shane Mosley, Raphael Perez. I fought that guy too. I sparred those guys too, yeah.
How was De La Hoya back then?
He was good. He was all heavier than me and taller than me, but we had some good wars in the ring. It was business. We were in that ring to beat each other up and get better at our skill. Right. So that's what I went in there, I sparred, and we weren't talking. We were going to spar. Yeah.
Okay, but ultimately you didn't make it into the 92 Olympics.
I was supposed to go, and I ended up breaking a finger, broke a thumb before the trials.
Oh.
Before the trials, I got injured, and that's railroaded my plans for that. So then I decided to take my next career goal was to be a police officer for LAPD.
Right. So then you joined LAPD.
Yes.
So at 24, you're a cop.
22 and a half, I'm a cop.
22 and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're married at the time?
Yes, my first wife, yes.
Right. You guys had 3 kids.
3 kids, yes.
Okay. So here you are, and I mean, you're a pretty young husband.
Yes.
Young husband with 3 young kids, and now you're a full-time cop. And first you started working juvenile narcotics?
South Central Patrol. First 6 months, 5 months, and I got recruited to juvenile narcotics afterwards.
Got it. So you were actually undercover.
Undercover in the high school, like 21 Jump Street, yeah.
Yeah. So you're dressed like a cholo.
I dress like a rebel. It's in the middle of cholo rebel with boots and baggy clothes, but more like so I could be a rebel. I didn't want to dress like a cholo because I didn't want to get recruited into anything or try to be brought into a gang in there because I knew an undercover cop that guy jumped into 18th Street.
He got jumped into 18th Street.
Yeah, he actually did to do his undercover work. He got jumped into 18th Street, and I said I'm not gonna be doing none of that. Yeah, he did.
Okay, I mean, what was it like to be doing undercover drug sales with high school students?
You know what? they sold me a good story. They told me that, the kids get a slap in the hand and, it deters them, and it actually links us to the big drug dealers that are supplying them. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, why not? If we're gonna hopefully deter these youngsters and then go to the bigger fish, I'm down for that assignment. So it was okay in the beginning, but then as I started getting close to the kids, I started feeling bad because I was raised in an environment where you don't snitch, so I started feeling the guilt of I'm betraying these youngsters, even though I know I was an undercover cop.
Right.
And I still felt bad because I'm like, I feel dirty. I feel like that's not me. So I still did the assignment for 5 months, but in the process of the assignment, I got in a shootout. Undercover shootout.
So what exactly happened led up to it?
So I got in. I was buying already like weed in school. I was buying weed. I was buying cocaine, and then some youngster introduced me to another youngster who's from South Central. I was in Verdugo Hills. That school's out here in the valley somewhere. Well, they bus kids from different areas, and this kid's from South Central, and they go, "Hey, this guy has PCP." Because I told them I'm buying dope and I'm selling it in my area, so I'm just buying dope from you guys. I'm gonna go double it up here. So that was my story. Mm-hmm. So they go, "This guy has PCP," and I said, "How much you have?" He goes, "I don't know, but when I get home, I can page you and then let you know how much I have, and then you can bring the money tomorrow." So at that time, we don't have no cell phones. It's all pagers and pay phones. Mm-hmm. So he goes home, and the same night he pages me. I go to the payphone like at 9 p.m. I call him up, and he says, "Hey, I got $80 worth of PCP." I said, "Sounds good. I'll be there tomorrow with the money. I'll buy it off you." While I'm on the phone, I'm about to take another phone call because I'm about to call somebody else that they had just paged me, and two older gangsters start walking towards me, and I'm kind of like suspicious at first, but I had my gun. I had my hand on my gun in my rear waistband because I'm not sure if they're gonna stop there or keep moving. And as I'm on the phone and I'm like this, and I have the gun in my rear waistband like that, the one guy passes by me, and the other guy kind of stops in front of me, and he's toying around with some money. Like they made it seem like they're gonna use a phone. So me to try to get rid of them, I go, "Hey, there's another phone over there." I did this. There's another phone over there. The guy in front of me turns around and racks the action, puts the gun to my stomach. Then the other guy corners me in. So pretty much I dropped my guard, and he got me off guard. So when he does that, he starts asking me for my wallet. "Give me your effing wallet, I'm gonna kill you." And I don't have a wallet, but here's my money. So I start giving him the money in my pocket. And this guy's kind of reaching towards my other pockets, and I'm trying to move his hand away because I don't want him to touch my gun or my wallet because I have my badge in there and my cop ID. So this guy's in front of me, jabbing me with his gun, saying, "Give me your effing wallet, I'm gonna fucking kill you." I said, "I don't have a wallet, bro." And then he's still kind of pushy. So I go, here's my car. Take my car. I have an undercover cop car, so I'm gonna take it. I don't care. Well, as this guy's jamming me with the gun, this guy's reaching towards my pocket, so I end up hitting his hand and I backhand him in his face. As I backhand him, I react and I grab the guy's gun and I turn it on him. And as I do that, he holds the hammer area. We fall to the ground, the grip area. We fall, and I got the barrel pointing towards his face. As I'm hoping he fires and shoots himself in the face, I start blocking his partner's kicks. His partner's kicking me, and I'm blocking his kicks. At one point, this guy's able to pull the gun away from me. As I look over, I can see the barrel. People say things slow down. Well, it slows down. I can see the barrel. I can see the bullet inside the barrel. Everything's slow motion, but I'm able to catch the guy's kick from behind the knee. I throw him over me. As I'm getting up to go for my gun, he shoots and fires and hits my right leg. That's where my head was at. Hits my right leg. I spin around on him and hit him, and he shoots my left leg. Everything's so slow, but I see bullets coming. I'm just cussing, "Motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you!" And I'm firing away, taking my nice deep breath, and I'm hitting him. I remember firing and hitting him. And the guy starts running. They go to turn the corner. I stopped firing because I knew that by then I wasn't gonna hit them. I already hit the guy, and there was a restaurant in front of me, and I didn't want to hit nobody in the restaurant. They turn a corner. The driver picks him up, takes him to the hospital because he eventually got arrested at the hospital with the bullet wounds. I go back to the phone, call 911. They show up, paramedics show up, they treat me, tear my pants open, find two bullet wounds, one to my right leg, one to my left leg, different bullets, through and through wounds. I'm fired up on adrenaline, I'm pissed off. Everything's going through my head at the time, but I want to kill these bastards. That's all I'm thinking about. But that day, something cracked within me from that shootout. And they take me to the hospital, and I can't stop replaying stuff in my head because nobody talks about mental health PTSD back then. No, I wasn't raised to talk about my feelings, my emotions. I was raised and taught to tough it out and man up, and that's what all I knew. As a human being, I didn't know anything else. I didn't know that it's normal to have these emotions, and all I knew was toughen out and be a man. That's what I thought.
In that moment, when you see someone pulling a gun, why not just say, I'm a cop. My badge is right behind me. Because at that point, most gangsters will back up.
I think more so in my head, I thought these guys might still shoot me. Because I grew up in the environment out there, I thought these guys might still shoot me. In my head, that's all I could think about. I've been robbed at gunpoint as a kid, and I just gave up the money. I didn't care because it was different. But now I'm looking at this, thinking in my head, and I had to think super fast. I didn't want to give them the opportunity for them to just shoot me without me fighting for it. That's what I was going through my head that time. That thinking if I say I'm a cop, they might just shoot me anyways. Literally, they found out the three guys they had a chop shop. They were doing robberies in the area. They were wanted parolees. So they were dirty. They were no good, and they're out to no good out there. And they got arrested. So the department gave me a Medal of Valor. It's like the police medal. I got awarded for that, and they got a lot of time. They got a lot of time for the robbery.
Did you ever run into these guys again?
In court.
In court.
I had to go testify.
Like seeing the guy.
I wanted to kill him. I knew I shot him. I blew his balls off and everything.
You blew his balls off?
Yeah, I shot him in the balls.
Wow.
I was still pissed off because in my head, I wish I would have killed him. So at that time, I'm thinking, I still want to get these guys. I wasn't satisfied. I was still angry inside.
That was the only time you ever got shot?
That's the only time I got shot, yeah.
Okay, so after that situation happens, you get transferred to the Rampart division.
Yes, I requested to go to Rampart division.
Right, and you wanted to keep working undercover.
No, not yet. No, I went to patrol.
Okay.
I went to patrol. I did patrol, and then from patrol, I got recruited to Rampart Crash.
Aha.
While in Rampart Crash, like for a year, I got recruited to another unit, which is undercover, like FES, like the movie Training Day. It's exactly the same thing you saw in the movie. FES operates the same way. You're buying narcotics, you're getting citizen arrest, informants, you're playing clothes, you're working the streets. That's how it was operated like that, and it's called Field Enforcement Section.
Well, let me ask you a question. You just got shot working undercover.
Mm-hmm.
And then you heal up and then go back into undercover again?
Yes, but I forgot to tell you this part. While I was freshly wounded and recovering, they did throw me back undercover in the high school without letting me heal. I was in crutches going back to high school.
That's crazy.
They didn't ever thought about sending me to get some psych help, and I was on a cop rookie probationer on probation, and I didn't know how the department system functioned. If I'm supposed to go get some type of therapy or anything. And they were more concerned about the numbers. So when they threw me back to work, I started resenting the department because I started thinking, these people just think you're a number. So F these guys. They don't care about you. So I started taking it personal because in my mind, I'm thinking my lieutenant and people under him, which are the sergeants, the detectives too with the three stripes, that's who we were working under. They're thinking about the caseloads and the numbers for them. And I'm thinking, they don't care about my well-being. And here I am as a rookie cop already experiencing it, so I started taking it personal. And they did send me to work undercover like that. I bought a bunch of dope, and they made a bunch of arrests. And then when I was done with that assignment, I went to Rampart.
Okay, so you go to Rampart, and you eventually end up in the crash unit.
Yes, I ended up in the crash unit.
Which stands for Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums.
Yes.
Interesting name.
Yes.
You've actually admitted the crash unit is a gang.
Pretty much, yeah. A bigger gang with the position to get the job done and deal with the bigger animals that are out there terrorizing citizens. And that's how we saw it back then when I was working the unit. They were terrorizing people and killing themselves is what they signed up for, robbing and moving dope. They signed up for that, but we were supposed to help the people that they were victimizing. They didn't sign up for that.
Right. Now, the crash unit would deal with gang problems at all costs.
Yes.
The police work was not by the book.
It wasn't at all.
Victims would talk to Crash, but then they wouldn't press charges, so the unit would take matters into their own hands.
Yes.
Explain.
Well, depending on the scenario and who the guy was, if he's a gangster from any neighborhood, if he was out there terrorizing some innocent victims, and we knew he had a three-striker, they'll put a gun on him and get rid of him, or make him an informant. And a lot of times these guys became informants too. Some of the gangsters from 18th Street or other neighborhoods would become our informants, and they were still out in the street working and doing stuff, but they were our informants. And a lot of times they'll call us to stop a drive-by. Before a drive-by was going to happen, they'll let us know, hey, we're going to be in these two cars going down the street, pull us over, blah, blah, blah. And we'll hit them and stop them. And they're about to go do a drive-by against MS-13, and here you have two cars loaded with 18 streeters with weapons, and we stop them and we'll arrest them. And our informant will be there.
And you were actually working MS-13.
I was working MS-13.
Now, MS-13 is a fairly scary gang.
For the person that don't know any better, yeah, they can intimidate people, but not to us.
Well, isn't MS-13 considered a terrorist organization in America?
Yes.
It's one of the few gangs with that title.
Yes.
Like Crips and Bloods are not considered terrorist organizations, but MS-13 is.
Yes, they are.
Why is that?
I think because they were able to branch out in other states in the United States. They were able to branch out. They were able to branch out in El Salvador and Guatemala, and they got deported to those areas, and they were able to establish out there because they were not challenged by nobody. And they're international because they communicate with their people out here, and they're able to move things and get things done out here too and over there because of that position. And they are vicious because they don't care, but they have to do what they have to do because they're assigned to do it. If not, they're going to get killed. So they're working out under fear too. Right.
When you look at MS-13 in like South America, they're known to blow up school buses and you know, all types of really crazy shit. You know, I've interviewed MS-13 people before.
Yeah.
And it's fairly insane. You know, plus they have the face tattoos,
they have the tattoo in their face,
13 on their faces, so you have the intimidation factor, and, you know, and so forth. Now, Crash, one of the goals was to become the bigger gang.
Right.
And you guys would actually plant drugs on suspects and so forth.
Yes, that would happen too.
Give me an example of that.
I mean, a lot of times, every scenario is different, but in some scenarios, I could be working an area and I'm doing surveillance on the MS-13 guys moving dope in the corner like nonstop, and I already have the dope in my hand or in my pocket, and I see the activity for like 30 minutes, an hour. I'll send in some units to grab those guys, and if I'm working the undercover unit, I'll just say, I bought off that guy, I bought off that guy, and I'll put the dope on all those guys. They don't know who they sold the dope to, because they don't know they sold it to me. Now they're selling dope around the nonstop in that area, and I just put the dope on it and book them for the multi-6 arrest, and we'll deal with that problem right there.
Okay. I mean, in those moments, did you feel you were doing something wrong, or did you feel like, well, the ends justify the means? I'm putting dope on him, but it's not like he wasn't selling dope anyway, so whatever.
The ends justify the means. That was my frame of mind back then. Yeah. The ends justify the means, and a lot of times that's how we would justify things. This person just robbed a family member or 3 family members from that area, and they're all terrorized, they're all scared to press charges, but they're telling us that they're in fear for their life, but they don't want to press charges. So then I'll find the guy who was doing the robberies and then put the dope on him too and get rid of him for the dope instead of the robberies. And there's no victims.
Well, at one point, it seems like you went from police officer to criminal.
Yes.
Where you actually got a crew of other police officers and you started to essentially rob drug dealers, making it look like police raids?
Yes, I started doing that.
Tell me about the first time you did that.
At this time, the Rampart scandal was already going, and Perez was already pretty much telling on all the guys that worked crash with us. And I started taking everything super personal again. I was an angry individual. I was very vindictive, and I was the kind of guy that goes out there and handles things and gets things done. And I saw what was going on with the department and the guys that worked crash with me. I saw that they were being put under investigation without pay, and I started thinking, well, the department hired us and told us to do what we do as a crash cop, and they knew what we were doing. So now they're going to throw us under the bus. So I said, well, what the hell's wrong with these dudes, right? So I'm thinking, I don't like this. So I knew a friend of mine who was back in the days was moving dope back in the days from Mexico, and I reconnected with him. I told him, hey, I'm in a place where I'm kind of like I'm tired of this BS job no more. I don't want to be a cop no more, and I'm going to use my position to get even with these people and start hitting these drug dealers. I said, put me a job so I could collect the debt. And
Collected debt meaning what? That this guy got ripped off by
Even
somebody?
that he knew anybody that got ripped off from one of the other guys that owed the money, dope money, and or just a house where there's dope. I said, and he's all right. So I got a few guys in my crew that I felt that were going to be down for it, and I told them, well, we're going to hit a house, and I ended up getting the keys from the academy. I had the keys to the cop car that they had in the academy that weren't being used at night. And it was the captain's car, the lieutenant's car, and I had it out for the captain and the lieutenant too. So I didn't care about them, and I thought, "F these guys, I'm gonna take the captain's car today." So we would take off in the captain's car. We hit a house, and we found like close to $1 million cash, and
$1 million cash,
like close to $1 million cash in cereal boxes in some kitchen cupboards, and then we found 15 kilos of cocaine in the garage. They're still gonna package and sell it. So I took everything. I paid my workers, kept my money, and had my other workers move the cocaine, and kept the rest and paid the rest of the guys that worked for me.
Okay, so you got $1 million in cash and about $250,000 in cocaine.
Yeah.
And how much of that did you get to keep?
I probably got to keep like 700 because I paid the rest of the guys.
Okay. I mean, scenes like this play out in the movie Training Day, right? You had the scene with the Macy Gray scene where they show up and they take the money, then the shootout happens, and then there was remember the older white guy, they end up killing him and then pulling his floor out, and then there's all the drug money under the floor. Is this pretty much based on what you guys were doing?
I don't think so. I think they just stole some of the ideas from the FES unit, because that was totally different operations I was doing on my own, which was totally more bigger numbers what I was doing compared to that stuff, because that still was being done out there in the unit, but it wasn't as magnified as over here what I was doing with the guys. It's similar. They stole some ideas. In other words, they took some ideas.
Well, this went on for 4 years?
2 years, from 1999 to 2001. 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. And you basically, had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of drugs, cash, guns,
weapons, everything.
And some of these things turned violent.
Some of the scenarios everything I tried to do was to avoid violence. In the jobs, when I had people give me the jobs, because I started connecting with a lot of people that were either robbed for 75 kilos of coke, so they want revenge, they want money, they want me to get, so they'll connect me with a guy that just got a ton of coke weed, so I could rob him, and then he'll get paid off that. And we're more about, let's just get the money and dope and avoid the violence at all costs. And there's times when you beat people up. Yeah, you hey, where's the dope? Where's the money? Slap them around, or you beat them up a little bit here and rough them up. That was at the most that we would do, beat people up.
Well, okay, there was situations where 2 men were shot with stun guns.
Oh yeah, we did that, yeah.
During a robbery.
Stun guns, yeah.
There was a situation where you beat a guy with a police baton.
I did, yeah, that was another one. Yeah, I mean, to me that was not even, that was like...
That was regular.
Regular stuff, yeah, that was
right.
Like a deal.
You shoved a gun in a guy's mouth?
I probably did a few times, but I know what you're talking about on that one. I wasn't there on that one. That's the one you're talking about in South Compton.
Okay. Wasn't a guy burned with a lighter at one point also?
I wasn't there on that one.
You wasn't there, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about because I read the paperwork. I wasn't there, and that to me was like really sloppy. The guy that did that was a sloppy scenario. I wasn't there, and I had just got a fresh surgery on my shoulder in that place. So pretty much I had 28 staples on me, morphine, so I was super doped up. And I didn't do that job. I wasn't going to go do that job. And the guys that did it, they did their own thing. And I found out after what they did. I wasn't cool with that.
Okay. Now, did you know Raphael Perez during this time?
I knew him. Yeah, I didn't know him.
Were you guys close?
No, we worked to crash together. And we helped each other out on certain jobs. We worked to crash together. But we weren't buddies. I mean, yeah, when we went to the shortstop to have a little sip here and there, he would be there, we'd all be there, but it was not like I was hanging out with him all the time. No.
Okay.
I wasn't like that with him.
Were you aware of some of the criminal activities that he was doing?
I knew he was doing pretty much all crash unit was doing, but not the other stuff he was doing, that he stole the cocaine and I didn't know about that.
Well, right, because in 1996, Raphael Perez and his partner, Nino Darden,
yes,
you know him?
I know him, yes.
they shot an unarmed gang member named Javier Ovando, and they actually framed him.
Right.
He was left paralyzed and given 23 years in prison.
Yeah, I didn't know about that one until after the case. I did find out about it because Raphael Perez snitched on himself. Yeah.
Right. Well, Perez and Darden basically gave false testimony.
Yes.
Which in turn got the guy 23 years in prison after getting shot and paralyzed.
Right.
And then in 1997, another crash officer, David Mack. You know him?
I know him, yeah.
Were you guys close?
No, we weren't close, but I mean, I worked around him. I knew who you were talking about.
Well, David Mack and two accomplices robbed a Bank of America near USC.
I know about that one.
And stole $722,000.
Yes.
A co-worker of yours in LAPD is robbing banks.
Right.
How crazy is that?
Super crazy.
Okay.
Wild.
And then that next year, Perez was arrested for stealing 6 pounds of cocaine from the department property room.
Right.
And the story around it is kind of crazy because I guess originally the theft was supposed to be an attempt to frame this other officer named Frank Liga.
Oh, that white undercover cop, the long-haired guy, yeah.
Right, because I guess Frank Liga shot Perez's friend Kevin Gaines.
Kevin Gaines at the gas station, yeah.
Right, so they stole 6 pounds of cocaine worth $800,000. And ultimately, he got caught. He ended up cooperating against everybody.
Yes, making stuff up, and some was true, but he was making stuff up too. But he was pretty much talking about stuff that the department knew that was going on in the crash unit, because it was pretty common practice for the crash unit, and people, they want to look the other way, act like they never know about it. They didn't know about it.
Well, right. Perez was allegedly a member of the Bloods. You heard that?
They said that when he was young because he was a member of the Bloods, and then he went to the military. He got back out.
And there's also rumors he was somehow involved with death row and the murder of Biggie and so forth. And that part there is kind of murky. That was never actually proven.
Yeah, that was never proven. Yeah, those are rumors.
Did you hear anything about that?
And same thing. Everybody heard the rumors. All the rumors. I knew he worked for Suge Knight. So David Mack, Gaines. These guys all worked for Suge Knight. I knew that, and we knew that they worked for him. And whatever they were doing with him, they were not sharing with us.
Got it. Well, Perez actually snitched on you at one point.
He lied and made stuff up, yes, about me.
Right. He said that you had been involved in a bad shooting in 1998.
Right. And he made that up.
So what exactly did he say?
I don't remember because I read the paper on his statement a long time ago, but I do recall him saying that we were at the shortstop hanging out because what they do in the crash unit, they commend you when you survive a shootout, and they'll take you to drink and have a sip and want to hear the war story. But I wasn't one of those guys that want to talk about it. I don't care. I wasn't that guy. But we're there hanging out, and his story is, because I don't remember none of that because I know that didn't happen, that we were all talking and they said, hey, so tell us what happened. And that I told him what happened, the shootout, but that with my eyes, and the newspaper said that because I made the eyes, like, made it seem like it was a bad shootout. I don't understand how that works. That was his story, but I know that never happened, but he did make that up.
Was there a shootout in 98?
Yeah, there was a shootout.
Were you involved in it?
I was, yes.
What happened?
I was working at FES, and during this time, I was screening a lot of informants. So pretty much me being Hispanic, I got to, a lot of informants trusted me. A lot of the apartment managers, they'll trust me. And so they'll we didn't have phones, but we had pagers. So they'll page me and say, hey, this is going on right now in the apartments. You know, the 18 shooters are moving drugs. Some guys over here terrorizing us with guns and doing this. So I had a lot of good informants that would give me heads up on points. So I'll get a little crew and we'll go arrest the guys. Because we're plainclothes. We're like, FES is a plainclothes. Like that's where the ideas of moving the training date, that's how we work that way. So they'll call me and then I'll set it up and we'll rush them with the police vehicle and they'll run to the back and we'll grab them and arrest them for dope and stuff. So I had a lot of informants, and then one of my informants would say, hey, this guy that's moving the drugs out here keeps threatening people. He's moving a lot of drugs. Well, we know that they're going to end up supplying these guys with some more drugs. So can you guys do something about it? So my partner said, we're going to do observation, and our boss said, hey, you guys can go do observation report and come back. So we have a station inspection the next day with the chief. So like, all right, we're just gonna do observation report, log everything, and come back. So we're climbing the building. We have keys to the apartments that overlook the street. So our goal was to go to the third floor, overlook, surveil, and get ID, get players, cars, plates, and then take off. Well, as we're going into the building, we don't want to get spotted by the gangsters because there's 18 shooters in that apartment complex. So we're clearing the building, and we walk into one of the rooms that's downstairs. It's like a washroom. We show up. There's a guy right there with his hands hidden, but he's got, we see what it looks like a butt cup of a weapon. He turns on us. He has a shotgun. He turns on us, and as soon as he turns, there's nowhere for us to clear. So the first thing we do is confront him. Fire 6 shots. My partner hits him twice. He falls, and that was a shootout. He ends up having a shotgun, dope on him. So I guess we might have got there too late, but that was what happened.
Okay, and you weren't charged for that at all?
No, it was justifiable. Everything was good. They sent us to, what do you call that? It's like, that was the only time they sent me to college afterwards.
Well, right, because Raphael Perez snitches on you, and you get investigated during the whole Rampart probe, but you never get charged with anything.
Nothing. I didn't even get charged with any of my arrests. All my arrests never got kicked out of court. None of my arrests got kicked out of court. Everything was still set.
Okay. Now, you didn't get charged for that, but you were still doing a fair amount of crime during this time.
I was doing some bad stuff. I believe that I was on a good one. I was on a revenge spree, and I didn't care. I was not going to stop. And I could say this now because I know what happened. I went through a phase of just self-destructive behavior. I was very suicidal. Like, I was adrenaline-driven, violence-driven. When you're addicted to that stuff, you're not caring about if you get killed. And then once you, like, being shot the first time, I kind of didn't care about getting shot. I felt like I lost the fear of getting killed or shot. It's like I wanted to get into shootouts because I needed that high. Something within me was driving me to that, because I would hear drive-by shooting calls. I was the first one to respond, hoping I get there and the guy's already ready to shoot it out again, or he points a gun at me and he fires at me or something so I can shoot him. It became so evil and addicting, but I didn't think anything was wrong with it because I was living in a war zone that I thought it was normal and you just have to be ready. But it was twisted.
Well, in 2001, you and 4 other guys were in San Diego buying 10 kilos of cocaine.
Right.
Tell me about this.
So my cousin is connected with the guy, Joe, and their buddies. They're hanging out. They're behind my back. They were doing their own little transactions. And my cousin worked for me, but he started trying to branch out and do his own thing. First thing I told him at the beginning of this operation, don't branch out, don't get connected with nobody. I just stick to us, and I'll make you guys rich, but you guys got to watch my back. But this cousin of mine obviously didn't care, didn't listen. He started getting greedy, and he started hanging out with this guy, Joe. And I guess behind my back, they were meeting with these people in San Diego who were supposed to be Colombian cartel guys. They had went to their yacht. They partied with them at their yacht. They had like 2-3 get-togethers and hung out in the yacht. So they were getting brainwashed by these guys that they're Colombian cartel guys. They were going to hook them up some good coke at a good price. That was their story. Well, I didn't know none of this till Thursday night, which is the day that Friday morning they're going to meet these guys. I get a phone call from Joe. He says, "Hey, can I meet with you somewhere?" I'm like, "What's the problem?" He goes, I need to talk about something." I said, "If you want to meet me, you got to come over where I'm at." I was far away, so I made him come over to me, and he says, "Yeah, I need to borrow $100,000." I had just hit a house weeks ago, and I had gotten 50 kilos of cocaine, so he knew I had money. And he goes, "I need $100,000." I said, "For what?" He goes, I got this connection from Colombia. I've been partying with him, with your cousin. We've been at a yard. And I need $100,000 because I'm going to get 10 kilos of cocaine from him. I'll pay your money tomorrow. I have a buyer already. I said, "Honestly, I don't want to be part of your stuff. I don't even know why you guys are doing something behind my back on your own operation." But because of my pride back then, he convinced me to lend him the money. And then he convinced me in the sense that the guy that he was operating with was legit, and he wanted me to go collect the debt for him. So only because I was pissed off at my cousin, I wanted to step on my cousin's toes because he had backstabbed me once, so I was trying to get back at him. And that's pride, what my pride kicked in. So I decided to lend him the money the next day, and I go with him to San Diego to meet his connection and to leave. My job was just meet, connect with him about training his people and maybe doing a job for him, and leaving. While they were going to do the transaction in the pier in San Diego at Chula Vista, as they're doing the transaction, little do we know it's a DEA sting operation against my cousin and his friend. So they grab us there. They take us down. They grab me. I have guns on me, and I get the day I get arrested.
Wait, hold on. As you're getting arrested, didn't you pull your badge out?
No, I did. I told them, I'm working undercover. You guys can blow my cover.
You tried to pull the undercover card at that point.
I tried, but in my head, I know I'm not going to fly because these guys are going to snitch on me. Little did I know it was true. These guys were already snitching. The minute they got caught, they were already snitching on me. I didn't know or think they were going to do that because I thought we lived by these codes. You don't snitch. You take your lumps, man up. Little did I know that all four of them were already snitching on me. So they transfer us to the booking area, or they have us in a place first in DA's office, and they have us there in separate rooms. But I started hearing stuff through the walls, detectives talking, stuff that nobody else knows but the guys. So I'm like, these guys are already snitching. So I'm thinking in my head, let me get rid of my cousin and this guy Alvin, because I'm kind of concerned they're going to snitch on me. So I told the DA, hey, what does it take to get these guys out of here? I'm thinking they operate like we do and crash, and the units. Well, let's go search your house. I'm like, oh, I don't have nothing in my house. I don't care, shoot. And then one of my connections had just gave me a house that they were going to hit. We're going to hit in East LA, which is a lot of coke. I said, I even got a house where you guys could hit. And I said, but let them go home. We'll let them go. They played me. They still got to hit my house without a warrant. And they let these guys go. And these were the main snitch guys in my case that started snitching on everything. Alvin Moon and Joe Garcia, Dennis Garcia, and Gabriel. They were already telling.
At that point, I mean, you're talking about there was $1 million hit here and there was 100,000 here. How much money did you have stacked up?
I mean, I had a good amount of money stacked up. I had it stashed everywhere, but I could say maybe about $1 million stashed here and there.
Okay, I mean, were you balling out? Were you?
I wasn't a flashy. Nah, I remodeled
cars, boats.
Nothing, none of that. I was keeping it low. I was trying to build my own. My goal was to get me a big gym and work. Cause I already had my second gym in martial arts. I was teaching MMA back then already. So I thought, I'm gonna get my little gyms and branch out and a shooting range. These were ideas to find and keep my finances moving.
Okay.
Invest it the right way, but. I wasn't balling, I wasn't flashing, but the guys around me were balling and flashing, and they didn't know how to keep it on the low. And I did have things hidden. I did have workers that had my stuff, and when I got busted, these guys took off to Mexico and took off with my money, and I had a house, and my ex ended up selling it and stole my money too. You name it, you lose everything. When you go to prison, not all the time are you going to be taken care of. You're going to get backstabbed too when you're in there. People think you're not going to get out. Yeah. Or they were going to give me they gave me 18 years, so people thought, I'm not going to get out, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, this always happens.
Always happens.
There's some version of the story.
Right.
Whether it's Freeway Ricky Ross or Convertible Bird or whoever, there's always some version of the same story. Okay, now you get arrested for this drug deal.
Yes.
But you get implicated into a murder as well.
Right.
Now, Alvin Moon, who was cooperating against you in the drug deal, implicated you in a stabbing death.
Right.
Of this guy named Eric Mendoza, who's 23 years old.
Yeah, and I read about that in the paper too. So to me, it's a bunch of stories that he made up. And to me, I don't know why he said that, because to me, Alvin was someone that I actually trusted and brought him around me. And I trained him in martial arts. And I had him around the family, and he just buckled under pressure and just started coming up with a bunch of stuff, because not everything was true. He made up a lot of stuff.
This is what he said. He said that Eric Mendoza was followed home and attacked after an argument that you had with him at a restaurant. You and your brothers Oscar and Gabriel got out of an SUV and approached his car after following him. Gabriel, who was an aspiring police officer and a longtime friend, allegedly held a gun and flashlight to Mendoza. As Mendoza tried to get out of the car, you hit him 3 times in the chest, forcing him back inside the car, and then Oscar pulled out a knife and stabbed Mendoza in the face, neck, chest, back, and thigh.
Yeah, that's he made that up.
The whole story's made up.
By him, yeah.
Okay. Is Eric Mendoza an actual person who got killed?
I read the paper. I mean, whatever. I never followed up on nothing. I just read it. I thought to myself, this guy Alvin is crazy. made stuff up. Because
Okay.
I wasn't with them at that time.
So none of this happened.
No.
So were you actually charged with this murder?
No, I wasn't. Mm-mm. And
Okay.
I told my attorney, I said, look, I have nothing to do with it. I don't want to get involved with anything anyway. So just keep me out of it. And that's what happened. They kept me out of it because I had nothing to do with it.
Okay, but you're still locked up over this deal.
Yes, I'm locked up over this year.
No bail?
No bail.
Why is that?
Because people are telling on me, and the guys that are out on bail are the ones that are telling on me, and at that time they think I'm going to probably hurt them.
Okay. So, how much time are you facing in the worst case over this?
Worst case, had I went to trial, because I was going to go to trial at first, I probably would have got 100 years.
100 years.
Because one of my co-defendants ended up going to trial. He got 102 years. So what happens is I'm stubborn, and I'm saying, well, where's the victims? I'm not going to plead guilty to what? To the victims who are also admitted dealers, gangsters. How are they victims when they also involved and admitting to this stuff? So how am I going to admit to plead guilty to something like that? In my head, I'm stubborn. But as I'm in there and I'm a couple months into it, I get invited. I get a cellmate who starts reading the Bible to me and starts talking to me about salvation, God's forgiveness. And I wasn't really raised like with any understanding who God was, but I was raised with a forced religion on me that I didn't really believe in God anymore at that time. But when this guy starts introducing me to the scriptures and something that I actually embraced and accepted at that time, I asked God for forgiveness and I repented and I surrendered my life to God that day, to Jesus. And from that point on, I felt this peace inside. I felt this unexplainable peace while I'm in the shoe and I'm looking at the time. But I also understood that I was guilty. That's where I realized I was guilty. And I told my attorney, hey, you know what? I'm guilty. I'm going to plead guilty. After 2 years, I told him I'm plead guilty. I'm guilty. So I called my attorney and then we met with the prosecutors. I told him I'm guilty. I'm going to plead guilty. I'm not going to fight you guys no more. Because I was fighting them.
Well, look, you said that you were raised not to snitch.
Right.
But in order to plead guilty, you have to cooperate.
On myself, yeah. And I told them I'll cooperate on myself. The only thing about it that they told me, by this time, you have to remember, by this time, I already got betrayed by like 15, 16 people, and everybody's telling on me. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to plead guilty and I'm going to snitch on myself. I told my attorney, I'm going to tell on myself because pretty much you guys already have everything from everybody else, all these guys that told on me. So remember, I'm not thinking like a gangster no more. I'm not thinking like a street thug anymore. I'm thinking, well, if I'm gonna serve God, I'm gonna serve God the right way. I'm gonna humble myself and do the right thing. I'm not gonna be a tough guy no more. So I told my attorney, yeah, I'm gonna come clean on myself, own up to my stuff, take responsibility for what I did, which I did. But then they told me, they said, okay, well, if somebody in your case goes to trial, you have to testify. I said, I don't care. If they go to trial, it's on them. They're guilty too. We're all guilty. We know what we're doing. I'm not that guy no more. I'm not that tough gangster no more. I'm not going to play that tough guy. I'm not loyal to nobody no more. I'm going to be loyal to God and my family. That's it, my kids. Because the loyalty, all these people backstabbing you and they claim to be loyal, I go, they're a bunch of liars. Even the gangsters in the street weren't loyal to nobody. They snitch on each other left and right. I go, who am I loyal to? I don't owe nobody nothing. So I said, I'm going to be loyal to God and my family. So whoever wants to go to trial, it's on them. And if I've got to testify against them, I don't care. So then I plead guilty and I tell on myself. And then a couple years later, they tell me that Bill and Joy want to go to trial. I'm like, why? They're guilty. Why don't they just plead guilty and own up to your stuff? They work for me. Bill was my right-hand man too. He was LAPD. He was my partner. He was a solid dude, but he worked for me. I said, why is he going to buck? Why is he going to fight it? By this time, I'm already understanding Christianity. I'm sold out to God. I'm thinking different. I'm not thinking tough guy gangster stuff. But I'm still in prison. I'm going to do time. I'm not promised nothing either. They never told me, oh, we're going to reduce your time. They never promised nothing. I knew that I was guilty, so I was going to plead guilty. I was going to stop fighting. Because if I go to trial, I'm going to fight hard. But I wasn't that guy no more. I don't want to be that guy no more. So I pled guilty, and I'm having to go to trial. They went to trial. And when they ended up, I had to testify against them. And I told them, yeah, we did this. Yeah, we did that. Yeah, and why are you coming clean now? Why did you play the prosecutor for 2 years? Well, because I was an idiot. I was protecting these guys. I was protecting these two guys and anybody else in my crew. I was protecting them. I go, but it's ridiculous. I'm guilty. I'm an ex-cop. I shouldn't be doing this stuff anyways. So I owned up to my stuff.
I mean, how did you feel to take the stand?
To my buddies?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, nobody knows, but I mean, afterwards, I cried. I went into a room because it hurt me because I knew it was hard because they were my buddies, but at the same time, I knew I had to be loyal to God, and I wasn't that guy no more. And I knew that we were all guilty because we were all cops. His brother was a cop from Long Beach. He was a cop, and we were held to higher standards to serve the system and the code that we made, and we didn't. We broke it. So now we're being gangsters. We're being gangsters and fighting the system too now. So yeah, it hurt me.
Well, when you plead guilty and you cooperate, it's not like you're given a certain amount of time right then and there.
No.
You plead guilty and you know you're facing a certain amount of time, and once you cooperate, you know, the prosecutors will tell the judge, you know, he cooperated, so go easy on him, but it's really up to the judge.
Yeah, it's up to the judge.
The judge could say, I don't care, he's a dirty cop, life in prison.
And that's what it looked like. When I was getting sentenced, it looked like, because my attorney told me, hey, they want to give you, they had already sentenced me to 15 years for the 10 in 2003, and then they were going to sentence me on this other stuff separate because they were going to two indictments. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to get sentenced on Monday, 2008. I think it was 2008 on a Monday. I forgot what month. They're going to sentence me to the second indictment. And my attorney visits me on Friday and says, hey, I got good news and bad news. I go, what's up? He goes, they want to give you 15 years on top of your, 13 on top of your 15. I go, why? I said, I don't care what you say, bro. I said, you know what? You're supposed to defend me, fight for me, but you know what? That's what you got paid for. Well, that day, it was a Friday. I just started praying and fasting. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I got sentenced. The judge was throwing stuff out there, and I'm like, what are they, the numbers? Well, to me, I didn't know what I was going to get. I didn't know if I was going to get the 28 years because he said 15 and 13. And I'm like, I said, man, Father, I don't want to get all that time. I mean, it is what it is, but I don't want to get that time. And when it came down to it, and the judge was bringing up numbers, the prosecutor and the FBI stood up and basically, instead of my attorney fighting for me, they stood up and said, you know what, they said something positive about me, and they ended up giving me the 18 years total, which was way better than 28. But 18 years is still 18 years.
I mean, you're 34 at the time.
I'm 34, yeah.
So you're looking at 52.
Right. So I ended up...
You're going to miss the rest of your 30s and all of your 40s.
Which pretty much I got arrested at 31. So I'm already missing my 30s
all
and
your 30s
my 40s.
And
yeah.
your 40s. How did it feel to hear 18 years at 34 years old?
Not bad. Honestly, I was happy. Not bad? I was happy compared to what I was going to get.
Compared to what you were potentially
It's still a lot of time. Of course, in my head, I'm thinking, it's still a lot of time, but you know what? I still got to trust God. I'm a man of faith now. Either I trust God or what? Am I going to be one of those wimpy individuals that says I got faith, but I'm still acting like a wimp? I'm not that guy. So I said, I'm still going to trust you. And I prayed and I said, you know what? I'm going to trust you that you're going to still bring out the best for me in here. I did do 5 years solid in the SHU before I got sentenced on the second indictment. So during that time, I was focusing on my issues, working on myself, and getting a lot of like work with Christian counselors, Christian psychologists, because I started dealing with a lot of anger issues in the SHU. I was in 5 years solid. From 2003 to 2008, I was in the SHU in the single cell, 23, 24-hour lockdowns.
Okay, because you get sentenced.
On the first indictment.
Right. There's a state case, right?
Feds.
Fed
both
case.
Both feds.
Okay. You weren't going to beat that.
No, you don't play the Fed, no. But see,
plead out.
But I was stubborn. That I thought, I don't care, I'll fight all the way.
I didn't realize it was a Fed case. So 98% conviction rate.
I was knuckleheaded, hard-headed, and I was down to go all out. You got to kill me.
Okay, so now you get sent to the feds. Now, it's one thing to be sent to the feds as a former cop, but you're a former cop that was robbing drug dealers.
Right.
So it's like an extra level of hatred in a certain way, or? Pretty
much, but you know what? When I wasn't saved, I was ready to do what I had to do, and if I gotta kill somebody, I'm gonna kill somebody. I was not gonna just let nobody disrespect me or take advantage of me. I grew up in the street fighting since I was a kid. I know the frame of mind, the gangbangers, everything you could think about. I fought all my life. I'm like, this ain't shit, you know. In my head, I'm like, bring it, motherfucker. I thought, let's do it. Whatever we gotta do, we can do.
Well, right. On your second day in prison, you get confronted by the Serenos.
Yes, I did. And I did say, well, let's go into the cell. I'm not going to shoot by myself. They tried to tell me to roll it up. I said, well, you three, let's go to the cell. We're going to handle it. I'm not going to roll it up by myself. I'm not going to shoot by myself. The shot caller for that area his boss was somebody I knew from the street. So I just asked him, hey, you know so-and-so from this neighborhood? He goes, yeah, that's my homeboy. I would call him up and ask him about me. And he did, and they left me alone. They didn't bother me. I was there for 2 years, running my little program, doing my Bible studies. And then he would come to the cell afterwards and ask me for prayer. And I started doing jiu-jitsu on the guy once in a while, because I was good at, from 96, I was practicing jiu-jitsu with the Gracies. So when I got locked up, I had been doing jiu-jitsu for like 45 years and MMA, and I was real good at it. So I'm like, and you guys want to try me? I started doing jiu-jitsu on the guys. So basically, we had mutual respect. But more so, I know it was my faith in God that they saw that I wasn't faking. I wasn't hiding behind the Bible.
I mean, was there any serious incidents in prison?
No, I mean, there was times where I did choke some dudes out pretty bad, like almost like not kill them, but I was holding them down to the point that I was taking their whole breath away from them until they pulled me off them. It was just moments that things would happen, and I knew that I had to react. I had to handle somebody, and it didn't happen all the time. And I was really reading my Bible, trying to be good, do my prayers, but sometimes somebody will trigger you or something would happen. You did have to handle business. You had to. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, but you're a cop in there. You're a former cop.
Right.
And a cop that was robbing drug dealers.
Right.
So how many people just didn't like you based on who you were and just wanted to take a shot at you? Probably
behind my back, but never confronted me. They were probably talking behind my back. One thing that I did understand about the prison politics is I'm from Jalisco, and because the paisas in prison, the feds are bigger numbers than the sureños and other races, that I would show up and I was real straight up and honest with the shot caller from Jalisco and say, hey, look, I'm an ex-cop. That's who I am. I'm Christian now. I'm not into politics, but I understand the system. I understand what happens here, how it operates. I'm fully aware of all that, and I'm going to do my own program on time. However, if we have any problem, we have any beef because of that, let me know right now. Let's get it out of the way. And they were straight up. They were solid. They respected me because I was honest with them. Because a lot of people in prison lie and make stuff up because they're scared. And I was like, let's get it done right now.
All right, because you do have race rights in prison.
You do have race rights.
At that point, it's just about the race. It's not about the neighborhood or what your job used to be. Cop, gangster, construction worker. Yeah, because I think like Tory Lanez just got stabbed.
I heard about that
the other day. And it seemed like it was during like a race riot of some sort.
Yeah, they don't care who you are.
Got stabbed like 14 times.
Yeah.
And he's a rapper from Toronto.
Yeah,
you know
what
I'm saying? So did you ever get caught up in those situations?
There was some of those races, wars where I was at in Safford, and they stopped before everybody started jumping on each other. It would start over here, and by the time it was about to spread, the guards, everybody would come up with cameras, and then it got stopped. And then everybody got sent to their cells, and then they got searched, and then they find weapons, phones. And then, they're getting a bus and transferring people to other prisons just to stop it.
Got it.
So a couple of times where I was at, they had them, but they would stop it before it got to the wave hit us. But we were on our toes. People have to sleep with their boots on. It's terrible because you have to end up having to figure out how you're going to manage with a weapon, what are you going to do, because you don't want to be nobody's victim either.
Yeah.
And they don't care if you're a Christian. If they want to clock you, they're going to try to clock you.
Well, you talked about the whole thing of becoming Christian while you were locked up. But before you became Christian, you had a plan to essentially kill everybody who snitched on you.
Yeah, I did have a plan.
They ended up killing you.
Yeah, pretty much my plan was...
That was the plan.
My plan was, I had a list, and my plan was I had a suicide list of everybody I was going to kill until eventually either I get killed or get away with it. But my whole plan was, I'm going out and I'm going to just take care of everybody that did this. And that was my initial plan in the beginning. And again, because God is real and He's bigger than me, and He humbled me. And that plan changed.
Right. So ultimately, you abandoned this
suicidal
plan.
Yeah, a long time ago, yeah. That thing's been out the window.
Now, at one point, you get transferred to other prisons as well.
I did. I got moved around from, I was in California prisons, and then went to Arizona prison. I went to back to California, and then I went to Herlong, California, Mendota, and then went to Texas. Then from Texas, I went to Colorado. Actually Oklahoma and then Colorado. So I was in a bunch of those prisons. I got released from Colorado to come home on the Greyhound. But I stopped in a lot of yards, and I was in yards for 2 years, 3 years. But it kind of helped break up my time at the same time, even though they moved me far away from the family. I mean, I told my family, I'm doing my time. This is what it is. You guys, eventually we'll see each other. I wasn't going to have you guys fly up there to come see me because I understood. I put myself in this situation. It's hard on the family and kids, but it is what it is, You got to tough it out.
Well, you get 18 years, you end up serving 16.
16 out of 18, yeah.
Right, it's 85%.
85%, yeah.
Right. How did it feel when you start getting close to the release date? Because I heard that's the hardest time. The hardest time is like the beginning and the end. The middle, you kind of get used to it. You know, you're years away, but once you get close, 6 months away, 5 months away, that's when it starts getting hard.
So to be honest, the last month in Colorado, it was tough for me because I had a few months to go, and it's like, here I am. I'm a man of faith, but I'm getting anxious. I want to leave already because I already know my time is up. I just want to go. So I train and work out for the years. I was always training, working out, staying fit, staying active. But by the few months before I got out, I would just walk the track. I didn't want to train anymore, work out. I just want to hurry up and leave. I played softball, anything to kind of distract my mind. But I was more like, I just wanted to turn the clock fast. Just want to leave already. It does get nerve-wracking when you're about to come home. Excitement, more exciting because I'm going to finally see my family, I'm going to be around my kids, all that stuff. Start fresh.
Well, at one point, you finally do get out.
Yes.
After 16 years.
Yes.
What year was this?
2017.
2017. So you essentially missed all of the 2000s.
Pretty much all the 2000s, yeah.
Yeah. How did it feel to walk out of that cell?
Felt good. Felt fresh air, breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
No phones yet. I didn't have a phone on me yet when I got out. But I got on the Greyhound, and anyone that was next to me that had a cell phone, I'd ask them to let me borrow your phone. I told them the truth. I just got out of prison. I'm trying to buy a phone when we pull over somewhere, but the store's been closed. They let me use their phones. I started practicing how to text my kids and stuff like that. And it was good. It was a good experience just to be on that bus and knowing that I'm finally going home. But I knew I still had to go to the halfway house. So that was my next phase of my journey, getting to the halfway house and getting through that.
Right, because you come out, you're in your mid-40s?
Mid-40s, yeah, 47.
47 years old. You can't be a cop anymore.
Nope.
That's out of the question.
Right.
You have a serious felony on your record.
Big time, yeah.
How do you start your life back up again?
Well, I always knew that because what I did in there, I started programs to help people in there with a lot of like emotional trauma stuff. I started addictions. I started working with people in there. I started taking a lot of corresponding courses while I was in there to work on myself. While I was doing that, I connected with a lot of different ministries that were on the street, and I got my certificates from a bunch of them. So I knew in my mind that I was going to put together my own programs when I got out, which was going to be martial arts mixed with mental health and a Christian-based counseling programs. So I knew I was going to do that. I didn't know who and when I was going to start it, but when I got out, I had that in mind. But the first thing I started doing is start training people in my garage because I couldn't go anywhere. I was still locked at home. I was at the halfway house, and then they sent me to a house arrest. So I had to stay at home. So during that time, I was training people at the house. And then I was connecting with different ministries to start working with first responders, like on the mental health level with PTSD and stuff like that. So I started doing that. I got invited to go speak in Vegas to a bunch of gang cops right away, like the first year. And I started doing like speaking engagements here and there. And then I started working at churches, working with the people that were in the rehab programs, like the men's homes. I started doing classes with them. I started using whatever tools I had to start work with people in those areas. And I went from there, like maybe like 2022. I moved out from that area because I was like Ontario, Riverside area. I moved to LA, and I started just training martial arts in Santa Fe Springs at a gym, just building my students, my clientele, but still working with programs. But all along, I've always known that I have to build my own program, get my own building to start my own program. So I'm still working on that right now as we speak. I get invited to speak at churches. I get invited to speak at homes, big cop events. I get invited to do that. But I'm working on having my own building where I have mental health, addiction, PTSD, work with people, and then martial arts, fitness together, everything. But it's all going to be Christ-centered to help people.
I mean, when you look back at what you've done, you started out as a cop to help people to try to get drugs off the street.
Right.
And you turn into a drug dealer.
And
I was buying drugs and putting it back on the street.
Right.
As well as robbing drug dealers and hurting people
Cracking
and so
them,
forth.
yes.
How do you feel about it right now, being 55 years old?
55, yeah. I mean, I feel good that I'm given the opportunity to do the right thing now and do it the right way with a solid foundation, because I didn't have a solid foundation back then. I had good intentions and good thoughts in my head to do, but when you start taking things personal, you start holding on to a lot of unforgiveness, and you don't realize that, hey, you can't put these expectations on people, because then it starts messing with you. You gotta stay focused on your ultimate goals. Like me, I lost that goal when I became a cop. Plus, seeing what I saw in the department, it caused me to lose respect for the organization itself, because I see that it's not a solid structure either, and everybody in there is walking around with a bunch of wounds and trying to function the same way. They're all beat up too, so they need help. So reality is, where I'm at now, I'm 100% way better, because now I could actually help those guys out too, because of my personal experience and my training. And that's what I do now, so it's good. I can actually reach out to not just to them, but people that get out of prison, to transition, people that are dealing with addictions. So I'm a better place, way better place.
I mean, the police has always been a very interesting type of organization, because it's designed to, uphold the law. But for example, there's the blue shield of silence, the
right.
blue wall of silence, right?
Right.
Where the cops want you to snitch, but they hate when their coworkers snitch.
Right, exactly.
Right? They
Circle.
hate, they fight the gangs, they bust the gangs, but for example, the crash unit was a gang based on the way you described it.
A big gang, yeah.
A big gang at that, the biggest gang. I remember reading a book, it was by Monster Cody.
I remember that book.
Yeah. And he would say how if an enemy gang would roll up on his block, didn't matter how many, how many members were there, how outnumbered they were, they'd shoot it out.
Right.
One cop would show up and they would all scatter.
Right.
Just one cop by himself
right.
in a car. And they'd be 100 deep. It doesn't matter. They would all scatter. So you almost have these similarities in the way the gangs operate and the way the police operates.
Yeah.
And, the crash unit, Rampart, had a lot of dirty cops that were doing crimes outside of their actual job.
Their actual job, yeah.
Like, what percentage of cops do you think are dirty overall? If you were to just take an eyeball guess at it. Not just LA, just overall.
Overall, I mean, I'm going to say, just to be fair, I'm going to say 30%.
30%.
It's still a lot.
Out of every 10 cops, 3 of them are doing things on the side that is illegal.
And I'm saying not just illegal like dope stuff. I'm just saying how they treat certain individuals, how they violate people's rights. Ignorantly or just out of pride, they still violate your rights out of pride, because the guy might say, hey, why you stop me? And really, it's okay to tell him, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But there's nothing wrong with you asking the cop a question. But some cops take it so personal that the pride gets in the way. And that's already breaking the law and being corrupt in the way you handle citizens out there.
Like, for example, I know a lot of great cops.
Right.
I hire cops to do security for me. I have active NYPD, in New York. I got off-duty LAPD in LA. I know great cops. In general, I've had good experiences with cops.
Right.
But every so often, I don't. Like, I remember getting pulled over in New York. I had a suspended license, and I'm being very cooperative. They asked me to get out of the car, then they slam me against the car.
Right.
And handcuff me, like, forcibly. And I'm like, I'm not resisting on any level. I'm
exactly.
being polite at every point.
And that's my point.
And this is what happens. I remember this one time I go into a precinct in Brooklyn, and I had donated my car, but I had forgotten to leave the license plate on it. So I went in there to explain the story to the officer, just wondering what I should do. And he's like, what are you, an idiot? And I'm looking at the guy, and this is this big fat cop, and I'm like, okay, you're only talking to me right now because you have a badge.
Yeah, you have the badge.
If we were just two men, if we were at a store and you said that to me, there might be a physical altercation. But since you have a badge, you could call me an idiot because I'm not going to do anything.
Exactly.
Which I didn't. I'm saying I had to just sit there and be insulted for no good reason. So I see this. I'm not going to say that I'm a victim. I've been beaten up by the police. That's never happened. But I have been mistreated for no good reason.
And that's the thing of why I actually want to push my agenda too, because I think a lot of the cops, and this is 100%, most of the big percent of it are unhealthy, emotionally, psychologically, they're already unhealthy. They don't know how to handle stuff. They're very ignorant too, and this is from personal experience I've seen, because the cop job is an easy job. The job for me was fun and it was easy. I mean, super fun and easy because you're responding to radio calls, you're helping, you're doing this, you're in the mix of situation where you're like the mediator of a domestic violence. Yeah, you need your tactics, you need your verbal skills to communicate with people, de-escalation. I mean, super simple. Yeah, they're going to get into gunfights sometimes. Yeah, you might get into altercations. But if you could just approach somebody without already escalating the scenario by you, the way you approach it, handle it, people will respect you more. People will, and a lot of cops, they don't know how to do that. And a lot of them, I think they're just scared and they're ignorant in who they're dealing with in the streets, that they overreact. And that's a big thing that I see. They overreact. I mean, that's why I say 30%, because they're not out breaking the law, corrupting, selling dope. Just the way they handle radio calls or traffic stops with people. And to me, it's like, dude, you didn't have to handle it like that. Or they don't even know how to fight. Like a big percent of coppers, 85% don't know how to fight. I was an instructor for the police department's tactics and self-defense for 2 years, and I trained 10,000 in-service cops on the, it's like the MMA for cops that we were involved. I was an instructor for. A lot of them don't know how to fight, and they think they're going to be able to pull out the gun. I've been in a shootout. I know that not always will you be able to pull out your gun. So the frame of mind is, again, it's going back to ignorance, not knowing.
Well, yeah, I remember I've always covered the OJ case very closely. And it's not until you really look into it when you really see, like, for example, the Mark Furman situation. Right? He got on the stand and they asked him, have you ever planted evidence on a suspect? And he pled the fifth. Right?
Right, yeah.
And then people were wondering how OJ won the case. You have one of the investigators who's basically saying, I may have planted evidence.
Right.
I'm not going to say it because I may have done it. And that's the whole thing. And this is something you've done as well.
Right.
You planted evidence on people and so forth. And
yes.
Yeah, sometimes it comes out in court if you have a good lawyer, but most times if you have a public defender, there's the evidence. The cop is going to come up there and say, yes, this is what I found, and I'm a professional, and this is my expert opinion, and I'm lying my ass off, but
from the cop.
I'm the cop.
And it happened on certain cases where I protect my witness. I had a lot of informants that were gangsters, and they would snitch on their own homeboys. And I was trying to protect my informants, so I would fabricate the report in a way that it was going to be, the PC was there, everything, so it could stick in court. Even though the guys were guilty of the drugs and stuff, but because I'm protecting my informant, I would still go to court and testify about that and lie. Even though I knew why I was doing it. I'm not going to give my informant up and get him killed because that guy was working for me. Even though at times my informants got shot up because they got exposed by somebody else. But it was just part of the job itself back then.
Well, there's a video which ranks the dirtiest cops in California history.
Well, right.
You're number 9 on this list.
Oh, I seen that, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel when you hear that? Number one is Joseph James D'Angelo. Who was a serial killer that killed like 51 people.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. 13 murders, 51 rapes, 120 burglaries.
Yeah,
I guess he was a former cop himself.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't faze me one bit because I knew what I was. I was vicious, crazy, violent, dirty, you name it. I was down to go for it all the way for broke. I wasn't afraid to get killed. I wasn't afraid to kill. And it was just who I was back then. And you weren't going to stop me until they put a bullet in my head. And by the grace of God, I'm here now because of that, not because of me being this nice guy, thought about, I got to stop. I wasn't going to stop. The arrest wasn't going to make me stop. The encounter with God is what made me stop. That encounter caused me to stop, because other than that, I wasn't going to stop. And God is real, and I had an encounter with him. And that's the only reason why I stopped. Other than that, everybody I had on my list was going to get whacked, and you name it, I was going to handle business until either I died in the mission or whatever. I wasn't going to stop.
Have you ever run into any of the people that you were doing crimes with, or any of the people that you robbed, or any of the people that you planted evidence on or arrested, or anything of that sort?
No, I mean, I ran into gangsters in prison that were from the neighborhoods from 18th Street. And I mean, I had a situation in Arizona with an 18th Streeter. I didn't do nothing to him, but he was accusing me of me putting his homeboys away. And I said, well, your homeboys work for me. And the paisas were going to stab him and about 3 other Sureños for me that day. And this is in 2003. And I was going to stop. I stopped the riot, but the paisas had my back. And I ended up just fixing it without violence, but there was gonna be some violence, and I was gonna handle that dude at first. But then when I came to grips, I said, wait, I have to humble myself. I'm being tested by God. I feel I'm being tested because I could take this dude out any time I want. And then when the Paisas found out about it, they had my back. They wanted to go stab these guys, and I ended up being the mediator, saying, "No, you know what? It ain't worth it, bro." I got transferred out of that prison because I wasn't supposed to be there yet. I was supposed to be in LA fighting my second indictment. So it was like a mistake. I was down there, but it still turned out to could have been ugly. So yeah, I did run into one person like that. I ran into another guy that was in Rampart division that moved dope in Rampart, and he saw me in prison, tried to intimidate me. I go, dude, I'm not going to give you no money. I'll beat you up. He was trying to say, how much Harvey? I go, I already told you, but I'll slap you around. Yeah, that was like my first year. But he tried to think I was going to get money, so he could stay quiet. It backfired on him.
Well, Ruben, I appreciate you coming in and telling your story. I mean,
thanks, appreciate
the
it.
fact that you actually admit to everything, and at no point do I hear you acting like a victim and saying that it's not your fault, that you had to do out of no other choice. You decided to do what you did, and ultimately you got caught, and you paid the penalty.
Pay my dues, yeah.
You did a big portion of your life in prison. And you ultimately deserve to tell your story and deserve to live out the rest of your life. And, it's hard being an ex-felon.
Right.
I understand the implications of it. It's like forever punishment. If you go apply for an apartment and you tell them you have a felony, they could legally tell you that they're not going to rent to you.
Right.
If you go get a job, they check your record. They could legally say, they can't say they're not going to hire you because you're Mexican.
Right.
That's illegal. But they can legally say, we're not going to hire you because you're a felon.
You're a felon, right.
And that, a lot of times puts people in tough positions.
Right.
Where now they can't make legal money. They can't get a place to stay. So they have to live with like a woman under her rules. And
yeah.
A lot of times they go back to doing crimes because they can't get a regular job.
Right.
And next thing you know, it becomes a revolving door. And now they're back in prison.
It's unfortunate for a lot of people that go through that. And I try to help a lot of guys while I was in there get a solid foundation. When they get out, they could actually build something for themselves, because in reality, a lot of them were always complaining about that in prison. Oh, nobody's going to want to hire me. I said, stop all this BS. Stop putting trust in man. And of course, I'm based on my faith in God. And when I got home, I'm glad I didn't have to go through that. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of guys go through that and go back.
Last question before I let you go. What do you think that police departments around the country could do that won't create the next Ruben Palomares? Won't create the next frustrated cop that says, something, I'm going to use my power to go do these crimes because it's easier for me to do from behind this badge. What could they change in the overall system to keep cops more honest, where it's not 30% that are bad, it goes down to 3%?
Right. To be honest, I think there's nothing to do with your background when you get hired, because people say, oh, they should check I had a good background. I did good all my life. I was an athlete all my life, so it has nothing to do with that. It's just understanding what happens to you when you get out of the academy and get into the field is preparing you for what's going to happen in the field, and having like a program for officers. And I know a lot of officers are Mr. Tough guys that don't want to talk about it, but that's the problem. You're not really tough. You're inside suppressing all this stuff, and you don't have nowhere to go to communicate, talk about it, and there's no trust in the department, because when you do want to talk about your problems, you get labeled as a cop, and then sometimes not only get labeled, but you might get your gun taken away from you, and then they call it put you under the rubber gun squad, because now
rubber gun squad.
That's what they call it, because they're gonna take your gun away from you. Because if you could say, hey, I'm having suicidal thoughts because I just saw a baby die in my arms, I tried to bring him back to life and he died, infant drowned in the pool and I couldn't bring him back, and I'm having flashbacks, I need counseling, I need help. And now I'm going through it. And if you talk about it, the person, sometimes they expose you and tell the department, hey, this guy's a liability. So cops don't want to talk about it. So they're still the cycle still keeps going. It takes individual cops to find a place for a program that they could actually go to where they're not going to be snitched on or exposed, but they're going to get the right help and they're going to do their part, so they're not a liability. So really, that's what it really takes. But honestly, I mean, you have to, the copper has to want that help. And it has to have the balls. Honestly, having the balls to talk about it is number one. A lot of these cops think they're hardcore and tough, but they don't have the balls to talk about what they're going through because they're scared. That's called I'm afraid to be a human being. That's reality.
Well said. Well said.
That's
Well, Ruben,
reality.
congratulations on turning your life around, man. It
Thank
seems
you.
like the religion thing is something you took very seriously.
I did
It
that.
seems like you really internalized it. This is not just for show or a way to get a few months taken off your jail time.
It didn't
Seems
work
like you
anyways.
Really internalized it. It didn't work anyways, did it?
That's not what you. If you do it for that, you're playing with God. God's gonna slap you around. God don't play like that. It's either you're real or you're not.
Right. And looks like you really, took it to heart. And seems like you restructured your life, man. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And what I did want to say is, any officers, people that are looking for like real solid help, you guys could look me up. It's either they can look me up in my Instagram. It's other level coaching, or I'm starting my own YouTube channel. It's a Redeemed Warrior 91 because I want to start putting out videos that will help people work on themselves, like deal with your anger, bitterness, all that stuff that you're going through, addiction. I want to push that. So that's 100%.
Yeah, mental health is important, man.
It is.
I go in and out of therapy depending on what's going on in my life, and I've definitely had some very dark times that I wouldn't have gone through as well without a therapist.
We need help.
A lot of times you can't really talk to your friends.
Nope.
You can't really tell them everything you're feeling because it's not always a safe place. They'll go and tell your family member. They'll go and tell your other friends. The next thing you know, you got to deal with that. So then you don't want to do it again. But when you have a therapist who's actually legally obligated to keep your secrets and so forth, and actually knows how to deal with these types of situations.
And he understands you, yeah. And he's trained. He's trained to understand you and help you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's their actual job. If your car is broken, you're not going to have your friend fix it. You're going to go to an auto shop.
Yeah.
To a mechanic that's been fixing cars for the last 30 years.
Exactly.
That's your friend who's going to look at a YouTube video.
Exactly. Exactly. So, point given right there.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. I think therapy was great. I spent a lot of money on therapy over the years, but it's been worth it. I think I'd be in a worse place right now without it. So I'm glad that you're pushing for it. And for everyone who's watching, there's a lot of resources out there.
A lot.
There's a lot of free resources. There's apps that you could use
to
speak to a therapist. If you have insurance will cover a lot of therapy and so forth.
I still go to one too. I got home and I told myself I'm still going to keep going to my Christian psychologist counselor because I still know that I have to work on other stuff.
Sure.
Because I'm not walking on water. I mean, I know that I came out of prison doing 16 years, even though I worked on a lot of issues in there, so I wouldn't kill somebody or do whatever. I still had to come to work on other issues, and I'm not going to stop because I think we're always a work in progress for all of us.
Well, Ruben, man, thank you so much for coming in. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Peace.